Kenny's last decision as his leader of the UCP was the right decision. I mean, while he technically won the leadership review with more than 50% support, he realized his position was untenable. So for the sake of the province and his party, and likely his own sanity, he chose to step aside. Now, if Kenny had tried to cling to power despite such a weak showing in the review, the UCP would have torn itself to pieces. I mean, there's no guarantee that's not going to happen still in the future, but he couldn't sit on there with such a slim number support at that point. In the end, what many members at the ground level and even in caucus concluded is that Kenny just couldn't lead the party to victory in the next year's general election. Polling numbers have consistently indicated that Rachel Notley's NDP could win the next election if nothing dramatic changed within the UCP. And the dismal fundraising numbers were telling the same story. So with 3 years in power and with Kenny at the helm, the UCP had lost the confidence of Albertans. There's no guarantee by any means that a new leader will manage to right the boat and win the next election. It's possible that a new leader could actually fare worse than Kenny had. I know some Kenny loyalists are implying as much. But the party had reached such a state internally and in public opinion, they had to take a dramatic change in course. And I agree, it means you have to replace the leader. I still have nothing but respect for Jason Kenney. I differed with many of his decisions, but I still felt that it was time for him to go. It was with a feeling of regret that I came to those conclusions, though. I mean, Kenney worked his way to the top, from being a persistent activist with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation at the start of the 90s, to his time with the Reform Party and the opposition, to his cabinet roles with the Harper government, and then as uniting the Progressive Conservatives and Wild Rose into the UCP and becoming premier. I mean, Kenney's trajectory had been nothing but upward. He was a tireless worker and a savvy political operator with vision and ambition. The one skill, though, that just seemed to elude him and that brought him down in the end was that of leading a party. Some people have that royal jelly and some don't. It's a rare trait to see conservative leaders who can hold it together. I mean, by their very nature, conservative-minded people tend to be individualists. You know, we don't like being governed and we chafe under authority. They're inherently the worst possible people to try and unite and hold together. Jason Kenney tried and he failed. The skill of being an opposition MP or even a cabinet minister is much different than that of a party leader. Communicating, compromising, seeking general consensus has to be done in a leadership role. Kenney, on the other hand, tended to be introverted even within his own party, preferring to keep within his own tight circle of staffers. He rarely compromised on any positions until he felt cornered and forced to do so. And he didn't engage directly or candidly, with his own caucus members often. It created a recipe for internal party discontent. When trying to put out the fires within his own party, Kenney's team played political games. They stacked nominations while disqualifying other contenders and fighting off all efforts to hold a leadership review at all, through controlling the party executive and eventually pulling every string possible to try and stack the review itself. Those efforts soured the membership, and watching those will sour the electorate. When Jim Prentice lost the general election in 2019, it was due to voters expressing disgust with the political games being played. The luring of Danielle Smith across the floor with the other crossers was considered by political insiders to be a brilliant coup, but it was viewed by voters as dirty inside political brinkmanship. The view shattered trust among the electorate with both the PCs and the Wild Rose parties. People didn't vote for Notley's NDP because they liked the socialist policies. They did it because Notley appeared more trustworthy and honest when compared to conservative options. The new leader of the UCP will be well served to remember that lesson. Trust is far more important than policies when it comes to elections. The trust with the UCP was eroding early as constant revelations of dirty play within their own leadership race came out. People were repulsed, and it just never improved. If the next leadership race becomes mired in questionable political play, Notley's going to waltz back into the premier's chair next year. The UCP needs more than just a new leader. They need a new attitude. And this winning at all costs approach from staffers and campaigners has to stop. The public at large is no use for it, and they're going to reject it at the polls. Kenney's tenure is finished. I suspect whenever he fully steps down, he's going to have the best night's rest he's enjoyed in a decade. He's earned it. He did what he could, and it was a lot, but he fell short in the end. Let him retire from public life in peace, should he choose to. There's little sense dancing on his political grave now. The clock is ticking. The UCP has an opportunity to turn the ship around, but it will have to happen quickly, and they have to do it right. Let's hope that some lessons have been learned as they go into the process of picking a new leader.